The way I'm looking at it with this, the news of the vaccines coming out, there's been a lot of talk about NBA players shouldn't jump the line because of their celebrity or whatever. I'm looking at it from the totally opposite point of view. When Joe Biden comes in as president, he's made it clear he wants to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible. And he's going to be looking for role models in different communities to try to convince people to accept the vaccine. And we all know the Black communities in the US have been especially vulnerable to this disease. And there's a lot, for very good reason, there's a lot of suspicion about the vaccine in those communities. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Biden administration goes to the NBA and says, can we please vaccinate your entire league right away? Because how many vaccines would that cost? That would be about 1,500 people, right? 1,000 to 1,500, including 500 players and coaches and other people that work on the edges. And then vaccinate everybody and then send them out and show the public, okay, last time they got through their season, it was in a bubble with no one around. This time, let's see how the NBA does after everyone's been vaccinated. Will games be canceled after they've been vaccinated? I'm guessing they won't be. The NBA has made it clear they're not going to force players or people to accept the vaccine. But even that might tell the story to the public. Look at the people who are vaccinated versus those who aren't. Which ones are able to play versus who can't play. I just think the new administration, the Biden administration, they're going to be looking for all sorts of storytelling methods to try to get people to be vaccinated. And this seems like a no-brainer to me. And so I really think that help is going to be on the way relatively soon for the entire league. It just makes sense to me.
I just can't believe there was sorry, I was going to say I can't believe that among the new protocols that there wasn't already a rule about players not having, non-team personnel in their hotel rooms when they're on the road. And I get we're talking about, a lot of, young, mostly single guys that have a right to do what they want to do. At the same time, though, just from a health and safety protocol standpoint, and wanting to remove any and all risk as much as possible, short of truly bubbling up guys within their specific markets and communities, it's I don't know, that seems like a really easy area to say, you know what, don't do that right now. I know it's going to be difficult, but try and restrain yourselves. And yet, here we are.
Maybe there was an idea of like, why write out rules that are absolutely certain to be broken?
Right. That's a good point.
A lot of history on that subject right there.
Yeah. Evan, you were saying.
Well, I mean, if you're going to try and vaccinate the whole league, you're probably going to, have to shut it down just so you can have those vaccinations. I mean, this is a 2-part process.
Mm-hmm.
So and the Black community might be a little skeptical, and I think a lot of people around the country are a little skeptical of this whole thing. Just in terms of like if it works or not, because the process in which these things were rolled out is a little rushed, but for good reason, right? Because we have a massive problem in our hands. I when it comes to a shutdown, I don't know how plowing through this thing, right, and trying to get like some sort of herd immunity here, or trying to just plow through it because the RSNs, have contractual obligations to the league. They have to do this, they have to show so many games, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I get all the financial, reasonings behind it. But there has to be like a health and safety, sort of thing going on here in terms of, we have to make sure that these players are as healthy as humanly possible. I mean, people around the league were watching, Washington go from team to team to team. And I'm not, singling out the Wizards, but it's just kind of what happened, where the Wiz would go to some team and all of a sudden a couple days later, they'd have to shut down because they have a couple of positive tests. And what you're seeing in real time is how this particular virus can spread so quickly and affect so many people and a lot of money in a short amount of time. And in order for this league to really get back on track and to get because you're playing regular season games, and I know it's the regular season, whatever, but when you already have a smaller season, they've already cut 10 games, go down to 72. Every single game matters a little bit more, right? And you have a lot of teams that invested a lot of money. I'll throw the Atlanta Hawks out there, and they're trying to make the playoffs this year, right? Atlanta stocked up on free agents, Danilo Gallinari. They got Bogdanovich as well. They brought in Rondo to try and get that team over the hump and into the playoffs. And if you're going to miss, have some of your major players miss a week, 2 weeks because they've tested positive coronavirus, like that does hinder your ability to maybe make the playoffs later on. So, I understand that people want, this league to continue forward because there's so much stuff going on. But at the end of the day, the quality of the product becomes, not as good when you look at the Celtics roster, right? The other night, if they had played against Miami, it was what T could play. They cleared him to play. Pritchard was the backup guard. I think Tremont Waters was there, but I think they had 2 players over 6'5", and one of them was Taco Fall, and the other one was Aaron Neesmith. I mean, that to watch a team go out there and try and play another team with 2 guys over. I mean, it would have been somewhat entertaining, but it's not the same product that we're all used to. And I think at some point you're gonna have to look at this thing and say, like, look, for the health and safety of everybody in this league, we might have to take a break for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just to get this thing under control and get back to work again. I mean, I have a hard time seeing how this doesn't, if you value your players' health and safety, how you can't shut this down just for a little bit at a certain point to get everything back on track. And that's why we haven't seen the second half of the schedule yet, because they're kind of plan on this happening. This wasn't going to be a smooth rollout. And if it was, it would have been a complete miracle. But they did this on purpose so that, in case something bad happened like this, they can at least recover later on. I mean, it feels like we're headed that way, Ian.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. The most important thing is the health of people. That's what matters most here. If you can run your league while maintaining the health of people, then yes. It's interesting, Evan, the idea of shutting down to get the vaccine. I haven't really heard of that. Like, people who are getting the vaccine now, doctors, they're still, when they get the first dose, they still go back to work and they're still working in the hospitals. So I would think, an NBA player gets his first dose of the vaccine, and then 3 weeks later gets the second dose. In the meantime, he's continuing to do his job in between. I don't think you necessarily have to shut down the league for 3 weeks to administer all these vaccines. And again, I'm only saying this as a possibility if it's something that the new presidential administration wants to do in their hope of blanketing the country with vaccinations. And it's going to be a big story what's going to happen in the Black communities of America as far as the vaccine. There's a lot of bad history there, and the intentions of the new administration are going to be all good. Let's try to protect as many people as we can from this virus. And so I just would think, among the many different groups, and look, the Black community isn't going to be the only group that the Biden administration is going to be trying to reach out to. There's going to be all sorts of different groups out there, communities out there, and there'll be different role models who will be asked to serve. Just like Elvis Presley took the polio vaccine in 1956 after children were killed by a bad batch of it. They used Elvis Presley to try to show people it was safe. They photographed him right before he went on TV getting the vaccine. I think that's what the leaders of the U.S. are going to be asking people like NBA players to do. And that gives you hope that what has turned out to be a rollout for the NBA season, which has gone very badly, it gives you hope that maybe it won't be like this the whole season long. Because if it is, like you're saying, if it is, then what's the point? What's the point of it? It doesn't mean anything. Your team was just the lucky one. You got through it with the most number of players getting through, and we end up seeing the Phoenix Suns win the championship or something like that. It just isn't. It's not worth doing. But yeah, that's where I see it going. That's my most optimistic take on what might happen.